Was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears release. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I
From the Australia Project, get out amongst your communities and teach people how to vote. Because we need to do this. Now, as I said here before, we got things flowing our way, guys. Okay, they are in panic mode. Sideshow's been here with us from the first time we turned up down at the National Library there also, right through this thing. And, yeah, very, very knowledgeable, very educational guy. So listen to what he's got to say. He's also, I think, from our little chat that we had before when he asked if he could speak, he's also going to give you an honest opinion on what he thinks, okay? Because that's what we are, people, okay? We're all honest here, we're telling the truth, and from there we can work out anything, okay? So I'll give it a sideshow.
What was that? Someone in the audience wants to talk about Queensland Labor preferencing, what was the other one? Liberals. I have no idea what it's about, but I'm sure there's intelligent people who understand it better than me.
So what they've done up there now, folks, just to show you that they're one and the same, these parties, okay? So in North Queensland, up in Barnaby Joyce's area there, that's where I said to you the independents have a 40% up there, okay? They're unbeatable. Okay, but what's happened now is Labor's decided that it will give its preferentials to the LNP, which is a combination of the Liberals and the Nationals up there in North Queensland. So these two dirty friggin' slime bags, all right, you know, Labor just knows they can't win up there, so they go, oh, we'll just give the Liberals all our votes. Guys, we're up against it, okay, we're up against it.
So what just happened right then and there is something I follow, which is LORE, law, land, origin, respect, elders. On this country, it's women's country, so when a woman talks, I listen. Those are the rules whilst walking on this country. I mentioned this morning at the Governor-General's about the state Canberra police that operate out of Belconnen. Their tenure has run out, and there's a huge possibility that the tenure for the Canberra State Police is now under the authority of the Western Australia Policing. This is huge because that's the only constitution, state constitution left in this country that predates both the Commonwealth and Federation. So the state police operating within federal territory are now under a foreign constitution, which is the only highest accountability is the Queen. Someone recently on the front lawns was said that we will charge you with a breach of the Queen's peace. I need everybody to do the research right now because I have not confirmed where that tenure has gone. This is based on the fact that when I visited the Canberra police station recently to check on one of the only veterans who was taken at the GGs, one of the only people who was taken into custody at the GGs last Friday, was a veteran. And I went to the police station to check on his well-being due to the violence conducted against him, being punched in the face, of course. And when I arrived, the state police force, which is supposed to be under federal jurisdiction, had COVID regulations preventing me from entering the building. Police did not want to come outside and greet me. 3 officers walked out the door, then walked the other way. There's a video of this on my YouTube channel, Nomad Rebellion, where I go into more details. But all the landlines to all the state police stations in Canberra are no longer operating. You try and call them, and it says this line is now disconnected. And the only way I could actually contact our state police force here in Canberra was through a Western Australia police switch line. When I called, it said Western Australia Police. So this is a changing situation here. And if they're under Crown's law, you might understand what this means. But we are no longer Herod's problem. We are no longer Herod's problem. Do your research, people. Everything comes back to Herod's law, Cain and Abel, Crown jurisdiction, law of the land. But I just wanted to mention that because someone told me that I needed to rehash that here today. The second thing I want to talk about, because someone needs to say it, and that is all across this country right now we have protests going on, and they are being met with violence and aggravation. Speaking of that, a number of police officers are now walking behind us. Police officers only know how to deal with violence and aggravation because that's how they've been trained. So if we greet them with violence and aggravation, we are already losing. I use the analogy of a pack of wild dogs. At the moment, it seems that the front line is walking forward like a pack of wild dogs and not in unity because they're all scared of being arrested. And only the people who aren't scared are the ones stepping forward and being taken into custody. Blackfellas have been doing this for years on this country, where they all link arms, they hold space, and they sit down if required. I feel like they're coming from me. Thanks, man. But there is a change happening here, and state police officers should be careful of your conduct moving forward. But we need to work like wolves. Wolves work as packs. And they do work under leadership, because if the alpha wolf sees that one of their pack are in danger, they step forward and make the sacrifice, rather than a pack of wild dogs where the vulnerable go forward. We need to change our language, we need to change our conduct, we need to present ourselves, not just physically, but the way we talk, the way we use language. It's interesting that they're disturbing this situation while I'm trying to make this speech. But moving forward, we are not going to win if we continue to meet opposition with opposition. And the portals are forming because our feet are in the gate. Hence the reason why state police are making a thing of what is happening behind me. And what is happening behind me is a certain naughty boy on a motorcycle, who we know likes to smash windows, showed up earlier and said we have to remove the cars, then put the bollards up over there so cars could not be removed. As I said, people, keep calm. Let's conduct ourselves with dignity. Let's have those conversations, because there is coming a point in our history where we can enter them into a days-on tort. All police officers are under the 2018 oath now, which is unjurisdictional. And at some point, once we've had a conversation, we will be able to move them under federal law. These boys over here are not operating under the Australian Federal Police anymore. Hence the reason why, since Friday, they've come at us hard. Because the federal budget for the ACT policing was running out because the tenure was changing to Western Australia. So they spent all the money they could of that federal budget before moving the budget to another state. This is all peaceful. We're right. If we can eventually get to that point where there's a line of us and a line of them, we can actually have those conversations in our favour, right? If we get educated on everything that's going on. Because believe it or not, there are white hats in the background that are positioning these boys into a situation in which we can actually take action. It's interesting that the only police officer to come here this morning was probably told to come here. I wonder if that's a test of whether or not we can do what we say we can do. One of the most violent police officers towards the freedom movement here in Canberra was the first person to show up today. I find that very interesting. And he's a very naughty boy because I remember him from past protests here in Canberra. But anyway, I'll just keep keeping the peace. If everyone would like to close their eyes, ground their feet to the ground. Let's open up the energy of this area, hey? All right? So everybody ground their feet. And a deep breath in all together. And breathe out. And breathe in. And breathe out. And breathe in. And breathe in. Don't be distracted by the costumes, people. The Magna Carta is more in play now than it has ever been. And, cool. Are we done? I did want to tell another story, but it might take a little bit longer than this, so it's depending on whether I have your attention. So if you could raise your hand if you'd like me to tell the story of the Cockatoo. Okay. So at the GG's last week, there was a dead cockatoo under a dead tree. And on my way out this afternoon after seeing it, I thought I should bury that cockatoo. And a very young wise man said, if it's supposed to be there, it's supposed to be there for a reason. So I left it. The next morning it was still there. The cockatoo was still there. And the cockatoo's body was there the day before. And I'd been talking about how the Larks sing at the Australian War Memorial. And having worked there, the veterans that I talked to all talk about the Larks singing during the last post because of all the gum trees around the Australian War Memorial. Recently, they've cut down a lot of those dedicated trees, and at the dawn service, the Larks did not sing, but a cockatoo laughed during the last post. So when we arrived that morning, and the cockatoo was still under the tree, I thought, I might bury it after. So I went and did the service with everybody else, and during the 2-minute silence, I had 3 visions, 3 vivid visions. One was an old fella sitting on a hill, a black fella, looking over the Governor-General's with his family as they were building it and realising that a change is coming. The second was a bunch of fellas marching, and where that cockatoo was passed, nearby, there was a flagpole with a Red Federation flag, because the Governor-General's used to be used by the military, and that whole area was where they did their training and their marching. And the third one was an old fella on a cane standing there beside the tree. And I saw that as the cockatoo. And if anyone else has visions or a story similar, don't let my story ruin your own dream time. But the vision of this old man was standing there. And he was surrounded by a bunch of other old men. And I realised at this time that we were not the first people to be standing at the entrance of the Governor-General's protesting what is happening in this country. And it's up to you guys to do your research, because I prefer you guys to build up your own comprehension through finding out those instances in which our veterans have stood at those gates before. So when that service was finished that morning, I went back to see if the cockatoo was still there, and it was gone. And I took this as an omen that the old fella had moved on, because we were going to move on with doing the work that was required for him. I found out that the cockatoo had been buried, and I went back with a very wise ancient soul, and we put gum leaves within the grave, and we did ceremony. And I heard the cockatoos in the distance laughing, squeaking from a distance, and I was like, there's something over there, I have to go and visit. So we put the old fella to rest there, and I was told that morning before I had arrived, the cockatoos were actually doing ceremony. There was a gathering group of cockatoos around that cockatoo, like old fellas standing guard to the general who had died. And as I left the Governor-General's, I wasn't going to go over to that spot that the cockatoos were calling from. Oh, there was another important part to this story. When I was standing there, I looked back, and there was a cockatoo in the tree across from the gate. And it was at this moment I got a vision, as there is a pine growing on the opposite side of the gate. There is a pine growing on the opposite side of the gate to the Governor-General's. And that is a sister pine to the Lone Pine Memorial tree at the Australian War Memorial. We had been standing under one of the most important trees to what our soldiers have been through the whole time, which was the sister to the lone pine tree just on the other side of the fence. And the next day they were actually cutting branches off it. So as I left this area after talking with the cockatoos and running around wildly, following cockatoos to different locations, I went and visited this place where they were destroying this tree. They were destroying this tree just on the other side of the golf course. And I looked up and I said, "Hey, why are you destroying this tree?" And he said, "The cockatoos that are now here used to be the cockatoos at the Australian War Memorial. And the reason why we are destroying this tree is because we're going to bring down these trees one after the other, after the other, after the other. Because along the Governor-General's entrance were gum trees that were planted a long time ago. And only just recently, within the last 10 years, those gum trees have been changed to Masonic iconology trees. And it's the cockatoo's way of pulling down those trees and replacing what once was. And that's my dream time with the cockatoo. And now it's your dream time. And it's up to us moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
Was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears release. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed.
But we all walk our own path, all plant our own way, and we need all of them, all at once. Only by being true to our unique sovereign callings can our new world.
I first believed. Thank you. God bless everyone. Big love. Love you all so much. That's beautiful. Thank you, Jen.
Right, good afternoon everyone. Thank you again for coming. Thank you for being here, old friends and new. Just something to kick off. I literally got told this before I walked on stage, and that happens sometimes, because last time, just before I walked on stage, Craig Cole told me what happened on the bridge, and that's why my last speech last week was very energetic. And they deserved it. I just got told now this individual lives in the vicinity of Holsworthy, and for those of you who don't know, Holsworthy is the location of a major military base in Western Sydney. And they've lived there for 37 years apparently. And they're accustomed to hearing sort of explosions and rifle shots because that's the ranges are within earshot. But apparently today, they heard more and louder explosions that might be coming from deep underground than they've heard in 37 years.
Singleton 5 weeks ago. Singleton 5 weeks ago.
And Singleton 5 weeks ago, the same thing.
Parliament House the other day. Massive.
So 2 and 2 doesn't equal 5, and that doesn't equal 3. I've got to guess that bad things are happening to bad people. That makes sense?
Yeah. Sure does.
Now, this is, there'll be many calls to keep coming back, and I support that absolutely. We've got to keep coming back, squeeze them till their eyes pop, give them no quarter, give them no rest. Now, some will be coming back here every Saturday and down to the Governor-General's. I think that's a great idea. I can't be coming back anymore because we've got an election to fight and win. So I'm running in a seat called Greenway, and we have another 9 Australia One supporters who are running independently. We've got a Senate candidate in Queensland, we've got myself in New South Wales, we've got 4 in Victoria, and they're going to need all the help they can get. 3 in South Australia and 1 in WA. So the tremendous 10 are running. So we're going to be absent from here from now on for the next 3 weeks. And that actually works out quite nicely, because when you think back when all this kicked off, we appealed to the politicians to do something about it, and they betrayed us. We appealed to the media, and they continued to deceive us. We appealed to the doctors and nurses, and they continued to poison us. We appealed to the cops, and they continued to arrest and brutalise us. So what's left? Us. Bingo.
Us, we're left.
Every one of us. That's all we've got left now. We've gone through the entire system, including the Governor-General, who turned his back on us. That was the last one. What happens after the Governor-General doesn't do his job?
We do it.
We, the people, do our job. And we're going to do this, as we've always said, in a moderate and measured way. We've got this fraudulent election. We know it's fraudulent. We know that. And it's run by a corrupted Australian Electoral Commission. I'm not suggesting that Tom, the guy that runs the show, is corrupt. He's either corrupt or an imbecile. You make up your own mind. The system, without a shadow of a doubt, is corrupted. But we've got a corrupted election run by a corrupted organisation who lies to the Australian people, because the AEC went before the Joint Standing Committee on Electoral Matters and said, we'd like to use the Canadian version of the Dominion voting machines at the next election. We made a bit of a song and dance about that, so they removed the piece from the media, from the internet. You can't find it, but we got a screen grab. And then they deny they ever made the point. So we know it's crooked, we know it's unconstitutional, we know it's a corporation, we know they have no standing. But here's the issue. Let's say a little known bloke called Bosie runs in a seat called Greenway and wins that election. It might be fraudulent, but if a majority of people in that electorate, or in Craig Cole's electorate, any one of our electorates, wins, you can take that to the bank. There's a legitimacy to that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If 100,000 people vote and 60,000, when the preferences flow, 60,000 say they want Bosie, or they want Cole, or they want this other independent, that's legitimacy, as illegal as it might be, as unconstitutional as it might be, but it's legitimacy you can take to the bank. Now the best part is, just remember this, and this is important, we the people must win this election. We the people must win this election. You've got to do your bit. Now there's two parts to every operation. There's the attack and the defence. Now, if you're in one of the seats where there is a good independent running, and I'm not just talking about A1 independents, because they are genuine independents. They're part of A1, but they're genuine independents. Look for somebody you want to back. If there's no one you can back, tear down the other guys. Does that make sense? Get your camera out and ask the people handing out the how to vote cards, will your candidate release the 28 names? And just get it on video, and it'll be 5 seconds of embarrassed silence, get it up online. This is how every one of you can contribute to the win. Because this isn't about gaining power. This is about getting a toehold on the beach of Normandy so we can start tearing the place down from within. So if I get in, and I've said this before, can you imagine me with parliamentary privilege? It's not going to be pretty, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Now my job and Craig's jobs and all the others, the genuine independents, it's not our job to negotiate with pedophile protecting Satanists. Our job is to get into the parliament, get sworn in, we know it's fake, you got it. But to get in and then tear the place down, kick the door open and let you in. Does that make sense? That's the point. So we don't need, so don't panic, oh, we'll never form government. We don't want to form government up there, because we've got to have our constitutional convention where you, the people, decide for yourselves how and by whom you'll be governed. Then we clean up the electoral system, and then we'll have the real election. This one is critical. This is the most important election you'll ever vote in. But the purpose isn't to get power, it's to tear the bloody place down. And then, when we have a fair system, then you get to have your say and elect whomever you want the way you want. Does that make sense? So understand where we are. There's plenty of work to be done. So tear down the bastards. Now, a lot of people say, how do we vote? Easy. Put the majors last. All of them. All of them. Put the sitting member last. So Liberal, Labor, National Greens, UAP and the sitting member, put them last, because they're all doing deals. And we know this. We've heard this 100,000 times, that Labor and Liberal are two wings of the same bird. Who's heard that, just out of a show of hands? Bingo. Well, guess what they're doing in Queensland? Labor is preferencing the LNP. You've got to be kidding me, right? This is prima facie evidence of collusion and corruption. Blind Freddie can understand that if Labor is preferencing the Liberal and Nationals, they are two wings of the same bird, and it doesn't matter which way you vote. So put them all last. And as Topher Field, who's from the Liberal Democrats, is the Senate candidate in Tassie, he's a straight shooter. Now, who's seen the Topher Field videos on the marbles? If you haven't, please look them up. He explains preferential voting, why it's important to vote a particular way, because if we do, if every Australian in this country listens to Topher Field, we win. We win, because we'll get enough independents in the Parliament to make sure they never form government again. There's a couple of futures here that might roll out in front of us. There still might not be an election. There might be a catastrophic intervention by a rod of God or something like that.
Oh, glory to God!
And that's certainly my preferred option. But let's just say the election does go ahead, this fraudulent election. Let's give it our best shot to get enough independents in there to shove a stick in the spoke of their bike. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's the purpose. So get in there and support the independents. Now, if there's no decent independent in your electorate, find one and fly in and drive in and walk into the next one and support them. For example, I'm running in a seat called Greenway, which is northwestern Sydney, sort of west of Castle Hill and north of Parramatta, up in that corner there. And it's a winnable electorate. It's only on a 2.3% margin. The top's Liberal, the bottom's Labor, in the middle, well, they're a good mix. So that's actually absolutely winnable. And we've got people coming in from everywhere to hand out how to votes to man the booze and the rest of it. So that's what you can do to help. Get in there and help anybody that you think is worth the trouble. As I said, this moment in history will never come again. We either win or die. And nobody's expecting you to go off the top and take a 303 round to the chest. All we're asking you to do is understand that this moment in history, we either win or die. This is critical. So for the next 3 weeks, do all you can to help those people that you know are genuinely on your side. And understand this, there's a lot of people that just want to get their snout in the trough. They want to do deals. Ignore them. Who heard, and the pressure is not insignificant. I mentioned it last night on one of my updates. Marine Le Pen, who heard about the French presidential election? And Marine Le Pen conceded defeat and Emmanuel Macron apparently won the election, except for one small problem. He didn't. Who saw the screen grab of the actual vote count? Marine Le Pen was in front. Marine Le Pen was continuing to be in front. Marine Le Pen knew she was going to win. And yet she conceded. Why? Because they threatened her. Real politics. I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it's worth paying attention to. Security agencies, spies, people like that, when they want to turn somebody or get information, first thing they do is they offer them sex. And that gets about 99% of the men because we're stupid. We'll do anything if we get a chance of seeing a nipple. Sorry, kids. If that doesn't work, then they'll offer you money. If that doesn't work, they'll offer you fame. If that doesn't work, they give you real power. If that doesn't work, they'll appeal to some ideology. But that's not what they did with Le Pen, because that's the intelligence service side. There's the mafia side, and this is the way the planet really runs, folks. You've got to understand it. So if none of that works, they go on this side. On this side, they'll find some dirt on you, and everybody's got dirt, and they'll blackmail you. If they can't find dirt or you don't care, they'll manufacture it and blackmail you. If that doesn't work, they'll threaten you and your family. If that doesn't work, they'll hurt you and your family. If that doesn't work, they'll kill you and your family. This is life on planet Earth since Cain killed Abel. That's how it really works. Nothing happens in politics because it's a good idea. It happens because somebody wants it to happen. FDR said that. Roosevelt. And that's what happened with Le Pen. She was made an offer she couldn't refuse. Well, that's sort of, you've got to face the fire. You've got to face the fire. You've got to be ready to take the hit. Now, it's easy for soldiers because that's part of our job statement. Join the army. Why is that? Well, you get to get in a fight and win some medals. Okay, that sounds good. What's the downside? You might get killed. Oh, I'm good with that. So that's the issue. I'm not having a shot at Marine Le Pen, but she backed off. She should have pushed forward. That's the sort of people you need in this fight. Not the one that'll do the smart play. The smart play doesn't win wars. And this is a war. Back someone who's ready to take the hit. Better still, backside is ready to give the hit. Does that make sense? Yep. They are out there. So, Majors last, sitting member last, freedom-loving parties first, and get in there and help. And for 3 weeks, it's only 21 days before the election. For 3 weeks, get in there and help as best you can. Contact them, how can I help? Man booths, man the pre-poll, do the letterbox dropping. Descend on these electorates like locusts and just take it over and make sure everybody knows who's going to win. Does that make sense? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the last 3 and a bit months. You've been brilliant. You've been absolutely brilliant. And the good news is we couldn't stop this even if we wanted to. This now has its own momentum. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going until they drop. Does that make sense? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. All the best.
All right. Just hang for 2 seconds. Yeah, I just want on behalf of you people actually thank Mr. Posey, I'll get it right, okay, for his 4 months service here, all right, and I think that's what we've all done. We've put in our service here, folks, for 4 months. We're all going to be here for a little while longer by the look of it, but I just think on behalf of the people, Rick, we just want to say thank you. We know that, and the family, obviously, the kids have had been travelling down here, but we know, and the people know that you are the only guy that is going to actually get in there and rip this thing down. So, people, do us all a favour, all right? This guy's put his life on the line for 4 months now, as have all of us, okay? So let's do the independent party a favour. Let's get these guys in and let's get this country back to something that we can friggin' live in, eh? Yeah. That's what we got to do. Thank you, Mr. Posey.
Thank you, Mr. Posey. Posey, 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 Posey,
To fear and grace, my fears release. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Again, how precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Thank you. God bless everyone. Big love. Love you all so much. That's beautiful. Thank you, Jed. What a wonderful world once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Again, how precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Thank you. God bless everyone. Big love. Love you all so much. That's beautiful. Thank you, Jed.
Riverboat Queen, big wheel keep on turning, primary keep on burning, rolling, rolling, rolling on the river, rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Woo! people who live. We don't have to worry, just about the money. People happy to be. Big wheel keep on turning, primary keep on burning. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river.
Was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that joy my